The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is...
Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about something that has impacted you more and will impact you more in the future, in my humble opinion that is, than any of this talk that's going on about the solar eclipse. And that's all of the lies that in general humanity accepts from the talking heads. And one of the biggest lies, in my opinion, is this thing that they've been telling us about how the planet is going to end, or how life in the planet is going to end unless we change the way that we live our lives in accordance to the way that a certain group of people tell us we should live our lives.
Dear friends, humanity is on thin ice, and that ice is melting fast. As today's report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, details, humans are responsible for virtually all global heating over the last 200 years. But today's IPCC report is a how-to guide to defuse the climate time bomb. It is a survival guide for humanity.
So make sure that you do what we tell you to do, humanity. Don't do as we do, but do as I say, so that we can continue to eat our ribeyes in our highfalutin 30,000 square foot homes, and so that we can continue to fly around the world in our private jets. But you can live in your little 15-minute cities, making your world a lot smaller than what it is right now, so that we can save the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the same spiel that we've been given as humanity for the last 50, 60, 70 years, I would say. Everything that I'm talking about here today is my opinion. I have to say that because it's all my opinion. And I'm going to share this information with you, and I will leave you the links so that you can go and take a look at it for yourself if you like. And ladies and gentlemen, without having to say this, I do appreciate your support. I'm guessing that this video won't do very good on the YouTube algorithm. So here we go. Doomsday addiction. And for those of you that are always saying, oh, these prepper channels are all doomsdayers, well, take a look at the mainstream media, because a lot of what I'm going to quote today came from the mainstream media, and it's a lot more doomish than what we talk about. We talk about getting prepared for anything, not for any one particular thing, and putting a date on everything. This is going to happen in the next 12 years, like that lady said in the beginning of this video. We tell you, get prepared just in case. All of a sudden, the end of the world is coming on April 8th for some reason or another. And if it does, then I guess I'm wrong, that it won't be the end of the world on April 8th. And if I am wrong, I guess we won't speak again after that date, so it doesn't really matter. Doomsday addiction, celebrating 50 years of failed predictions, ladies and gentlemen, that the world is going to end because of what? Because it's your fault. It's your fault that you want to live, that you like to eat, that you like to travel. It's all the fault of humanity, but not of those who are saying that it's our fault. And what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm just going to jot off year after year all of the predictions that have been made for like the last 60 plus years or so. And you can see for yourselves that they've been doing this forever. Why? Because it is the best way to control a population. What's that? With fear. And they've been using fear against us for the longest time. We just don't know it because we're so used to hearing it now. In the 1960s, overpopulation and famine forecasts were all the rage. Paul Ehrlich, a Stanford biologist and end times prophet, preached of a starvation gospel. In the 70s, hundreds of millions of people will starve, he said, and no longer be here on this earth. On August 10th, 1969, he said in the New York Times, "We must realize that unless we are extremely lucky, everybody will disappear in a cloud of blue steam in 20 years. And that was back in 1969, and he was being platformed by a mainstream media source. And this is not the only scientist that speaks out. This is just here in a couple of year span, 68, 70, etc. In April of 1970, he says population will inevitably and completely outstrip whatever small increases in food supplies we make. At least 100 to 200 million people per year will be starving and no longer exist during the next 10 years, he says, in the 70s. Harvard biologist and Nobel Prize winner George Wald, he said, civilization will end within 15 to 30 years unless immediate action is taken to face the problem of mankind that we, mankind, has faced. So let's see, 15 to 30 years from 1970, we should have been gone already, because from what we're being told and what we have been being told for the last several decades is that we humans just keep causing problems that are unfixable unless we bend to the will of those that know enough to fix the problem. But it seems that no matter what we do, the problems never get fixed, ladies and gentlemen. It leads me to wonder, were they problems to start with? Dennis Hayes, a key organizer of Earth Day, said in the spring of 1970, it's already too late to avoid mass starvation. Kenneth Watt, UC Davis ecologist, at the present rate of nitrogen buildup, he said back then in the 70s, it's only a matter of time before light will be filtered out of the atmosphere and none of our land will be usable, talking about the next ice age. Again, in 1970, the world has been chilling sharply for about 20 years. If present trends continue, the world will be about 4 degrees colder from the global mean temperature in 1990. So we were supposed to be entering into an ice age right now. We should be like in the middle of one. Are we in an ice age, ladies and gentlemen? Thus far from these predictions in the 1960s and 70s, are we in an ice age where we can't grow food? And are we so warm that we can't grow food and that people are starving? No, we're not. So have these predictions come to be? So far, no. But they keep pushing this. Why? Because I guarantee you, I didn't research this part, but I guarantee you that during all of these cohorts of warnings that we've received over the decades, that there was an agenda behind each, just like there always is. Also, in 70, the Boston Globe ran with a chilling headline. Scientists predict a new ice age by the 21st century. Air pollution may obliterate the sun and cause a new ice age in the first third of the next century. So we should already be going into an ice age, according to this. If population continues to grow and Earth's resources are consumed at that present rate. The Guardian, 29 January of 1974. Spy satellites show that a new ice age is coming fast. Is this not fear-mongering? For those of you that always call us truth tellers and prepper channels that we're fear-mongering, where are you calling out the mainstream media, the legacy media, for doing fear-mongering that is far more destructive than any of the maybe minute amount of channels that do take into fear-mongering? Because there are a few that will get on there only fear-monger and not ever present solutions. Where are you calling them out? Let me see. Time joined in the cooling trend on June 22 of 1974. And they said, telltale signs are everywhere, from the unexpected persistence and thickness of pack ice in waters around Iceland to the southward migration of the armadillo from the Midwest. Since the 40s, the mean global temperature has dropped about 2.7% degrees Fahrenheit. Newsweek weighed in on April 28, 1975, warning there are ominous signs that the Earth's weather patterns have begun to change dramatically and that these changes may portend a drastic decline in food production. That was in 75. Let's see. The central fact is that after 3/4 of a century, extraordinarily mild conditions, the Earth's climate seems to be cooling down, says Newsweek. Meteorologists disagree about the cause and extent of the cooling trend, as well as over its specific impact on local weather conditions, but they are almost unanimous in the view that the trend will reduce agricultural productivity for the rest of the century. And they finish by saying if the change is profound, there will be resulting famine and it will be catastrophic. The New York Times, July 18th of 1976, with additional gloom on the agriculture's demise attributed to global cooling, the news for the future is not good. The climate is going to get unreliable, they say. It's going to get cold. Harvest failures and regional famines will be more frequent. And then they say that weather will probably make history again. Ladies and gentlemen, this message has been going on for decades. Why? Because it is the way that we can be controlled. Look at what people are doing. People are actually going to the middle of a road and epoxying their hands to the road. And the last article I read said that the gentleman that did that, he's probably going to have his hand amputated. This is what people are doing. The people that are coming up, the children that are coming up in this last couple of generations, they feel that there's no hope because of what they're being told. Even in 1978, global cooling was a no-end fact, according to another New York Times article, meaning that was it. The science was settled, right? An international team of specialists has concluded from 8 indexes of climate that there is no end in sight to the cooling trend of the last 30 years, at least in the northern hemisphere, meaning that we're headed towards an ice age. It's going to keep cooling and cooling and cooling. However, just a year after the global cooling article, the New York Times predicted catastrophe via global warming in a February 1979 story. Climatologists are warned that the North Pole may melt, featuring a jarring opening paragraph. And listen to what they say. There is a real possibility that some people now that are in their infancy will live to a time when the ice at the North Pole will have melted. A change that would cause swift and perhaps catastrophic changes in climate. It was the end of the 1970s and the big cold failed to arrive. So now what do? They're going to bring on the heat, and they definitely bring it on. You know, ladies and gentlemen, it is amazing what people fall for on an everyday basis. I'm a pretty gullible guy. I'm one of those people that gives other people the benefit of the doubt, and you know, I can very easily be taken because I'm so trusting. But when you look back, just look back a little bit. Just do a little bit of reading and research on your own and see everything that has been used, all of the propaganda that has been used against us, we the people, for the last several decades, if not more than a century, in order to control what we do and even to control what we feel and how we feel. In 1982, Mustafa Toba, executive director of the UN's environmental program, the UN just keeps coming up, doesn't it? Pointed to the possibility of widespread devastation in less than 20 years. He cited, quote, an environmental catastrophe which will witness devastation as complete, as irreversible, and as any nuclear holocaust. Wouldn't that scare people? Yes, it would. You know, I love technology because it allows us to do this kind of research. Without the internet, without YouTube, without all of these other social platforms, we wouldn't be able to relay with each other what we've found and the little bit of research that we've done for those people that do it. And it's because the internet is there. So thank you, Al Gore, for inventing the internet. Now, please stop lying to us about all of this catastrophe that was supposed to happen decades ago, according to you, Mr. Gore, but still hasn't happened. On June 30th, 1989, the Associated Press, rising seas could obliterate nations. UN Environmental Office says entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels if this is not reversed by the year 2000. How many nations have been wiped off the face of the earth by levels of water rising, ladies and gentlemen? I've done a video more than once. I think I've done a couple of videos where I show you a picture of Ellis Island from like the 1920s, I think it was, or 1940, whatever year it was. But I show you a picture of Ellis Island along with a picture of what it looks like today. You know, the Statue of Liberty. And the water level on both pictures are pretty much the same. So where's all this water level rising that they've been talking about now for decades? And then in 1990, aware that the apocalypse was stalled, Mustafa Toba doubled down. We shall win or lose this struggle in the first years of the 1990s. Well, it's 2024 now. I wonder where this gentleman is to say what's going to happen next. Other people will take over, ladies and gentlemen. once these people fade off in time and realize that their forecasts were never going to happen and they never corrected the record for humanity's sake, other people take over. In 1993, Thomas Lovejoy stressed the world had one remaining decade of opportunity to avoid calamity. And he says, quote, "I am utterly convinced that the most of the great environmental struggles will be either won or lost in the 1990s, and by the next century it will be too late." Well, I guess it's too late, Mr. UN. Why are you still on us about how we caused this when it's too late? And the former millionaire who turned billionaire by investing, this is my opinion, this is what I think, in green energy and stuff like that, former Vice President Mr. Al Gore projected that unless drastic measures were implemented, the planet would hit an irreversible point of no return by 2016. Game over, ladies and gentlemen. We shouldn't be here right now. Thank your lucky stars that we were given this extra 8 years. Well, we still have till 2031 now, according to AOC. And listen to this, the head of the UN climate panel one-upped Gore in 2007, insisting back then that 2012 was the year of irreversibility. If there's no action taken before 2012, what we do in the next 2 to 3 years will determine our future. This is the defining moment. In April of 2008, media mogul Ted Turner provided far more detail than either Gore or Pachauri, I think is how you pronounce it. And he said, not doing it will be catastrophic. We'll be 8 degrees hotter in 10, but 30 or 40 years, and basically none of the crops will grow. Most of the people will have ceased to exist, and the rest of us will be eating each other, I guess he says. Civilization will have broken down. The few people left will be living in a failed state like Somalia or Sudan, and living conditions will be intolerable. The droughts will be so bad that there will be no more corn growing. Isn't this gentleman the one that thinks that the population should be reduced, but he has like 10 kids or something like that? I'm not sure if that's right, but let me know in the comments. The acclaimed godfather of global warming, James Hansen, drew a line in the sand, testifying before Congress in 2008 on the dangers of greenhouse gases. And he says, quote, "We are toast if we don't get on a very different path. This is the last chance." How many last chances have we heard here in the last 60 years or so that we've been going through this timeline? And then a year later in 2009, Prince Charles chimed in, asserting the planet had 96 months to avoid decimation. Let's see, 96 months is what, 8 years? 8 years, 2017? Okay. In 2014, French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius says we have 500 days to avoid chaos. 12 years to 2031. In January of 2019, AOC put her chips on 2031 as the potential end of days, and we all know that. She says the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address this change, and your biggest issue is how we're going to pay for it? Yes, that is our biggest issue. Because it seems that no matter how much money, ladies and gentlemen, we have been stripped of as humanity to go towards this green agenda, it seems that the world as a whole is using more oil today, which is supposed to be the devil, than it was when they started stripping humanity of their money, of their wealth, in order to go towards this green and renewable energy. So what is really going on? Where has all that money gone? And then echoing AOC, UN General Assembly President Maria Garces declared an 11-year window to escape catastrophe. Quote, she says, "We are the last generation that can prevent irreparable damage to our planet." Ladies and gentlemen, please share this. This is important. The people need to know that they've been duped. It's the only way that we can stop it. With what? With information, and that's what this is. I hope that you all go back and revisit this and read it in full, not just the little points that I'm pointing out. In June of 2019, Joe Biden says, quote, "Science tells us that how we act or fail to act in the next 12 years will determine the very livability of our planet." Haven't you heard that before? Did you hear it from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s? And now we hear it again, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because fear is how they control the people. Keeping us separated or divided is how they control the people. Controlling the money is how they control the people. Full circle back to 2023 at the UN's latest time bomb released March 20th, as described by the Associated Press. And they say, ladies and gentlemen, that humanity still has a chance. Of course, we still have a chance according to them, the ones that are telling us how we have to live our lives so that they can keep living their lives the way that they want. But therein lies the beauty of doomsday predictions. Just like we've shown you here, and just like will happen in the future, as long as we allow it to happen. When one of their predictions fails, what happens? In 2031, it'll be a new prediction. Why? Because the world will still be here in 2031. The question is this: will your standard of living be better or worse off because you're doing exactly what they want you to do? They're going to keep living their best life, ladies and gentlemen. All they're doing is just trying to prevent us from living our best life so that they can continue to control the way that we live. I hope you got something out of this. Today we will have a live stream at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Panelists, let me just go right down the line real fast. What percent of our atmosphere is CO2?
I'll bite 5%.
5?
I'll just follow you then.
We'll go 7. That's my favorite number.
I'll see their 5 and suggest that we know that transportation causes 49% of CO2, so that's why we're all working on energy transition.
All right. So what number do you think it is?
5.
5? How about you? I didn't hear you, Mr. Dreyer.
7.
7. Did you have one, Mr. Boyd?
So we got a 5, 7,
This Price is Right.
8. I'm going to
Okay.
get the high end.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I don't mean to put you on ice. I ask a lot of people that because all we hear is climate change, CO2, CO2. I heard a couple of you on the panel saying you're looking to change your vehicles to electric, even though we don't have the electric grid. And me as a farmer, I wouldn't be real happy about running out and replacing $300,000, $500,000, $1 million pieces of equipment because someone wants it to be electric. The answer is 0.04%.